Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra was founded and what its purpose is.
Okay, well, the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra is the home orchestra for jazz at Lincoln Center. And it actually started out, if I'm correct, in 1989 as a summer concert series of very few concerts, with Winton being, of course, the artistic director at that particular time. And over time, it evolved to the point where Jazz at Lincoln Center ultimately received its constituency as one of the constituents of Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. I think it's one of 13 to be exact. And over time, talking about 1995 and 6 and on, is when Winton obviously started to come along with the realistic idea of having a Performing Arts Center built especially for jazz. So now in our 15th season, so to speak, Jazz at Lincoln Center will ultimately have a home at Columbus Circle with a concert hall that was built specifically for jazz, and it will be the home Performing Arts Center for Jazz at Lincoln Center and the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra.
Kind of talk about well, I don't even know if this is true, but you could also lie.
That sells.
Yeah. Performing at the 50th anniversary of the Newport Jazz Festival, and three giants were selected: Ellington, Armstrong, and Monk, and maybe why they're great and why they were picked for this particular occasion.
Well,
you guys start as if I didn't ask you.
The idea of performing at the Newport Jazz Festival and its 50th anniversary is just a great opportunity for the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. We're very fortunate. There's so many people who could have been selected, but we were one of them. The fact that the foundation of our repertoire is built in the music of Duke Ellington, I think makes us a great fit for this particular venue here. So, but the reason why three giants like Ellington, Thelonious Monk, and Louis Armstrong were potentially selected by Winton. Winton probably would be a good person to talk to along the way, but I think in speculating that, one is that Louis Armstrong is one of the first great solos in jazz music. First great soloist, I should say, in jazz music. And that is why we play his music to date. Thelonious Monk, for his ability he's just a great innovator in the bebop tradition, and his music possesses everything that jazz stands for. And Duke Ellington, obviously, was one of our greatest composers inside of jazz music. I mean, with his orchestra being one of his greatest tools as an improviser. So those are probably the three reasons why those three giants were selected in terms of repertoire for this concert.
Talk about the diminuendo in blue and crescendo in blue, how it happened in Newport 56 and broke it up, and I guess that's one of the reasons why it was important to include it in the 50th anniversary. And you can also include, if you want, about the rehearsal and James popping the horn in his mouth and then taking.
You heard about that?
Yeah, Andre told me. And then taking bets about beating the 27 chorus record.
Okay, diminuendo and crescendo in blue. I think it was a given that we should include this in our repertoire for this particular anniversary ceremony because, one, of its importance to the Duke Ellington Orchestra. It rejuvenated their career, and as they say, the rest is history for that. For us, it gives us an opportunity to be able to articulate the vocabulary that Duke put in place, but not having to stay, not have to play it as a repertory band, because we don't try to perform it as a repertory band. We try to play it in the spirit of Duke Ellington, but in a language that we've been able to learn over the years that we've been studying as jazz musicians. But we did have some running bets on it now about our guest soloist James Carter and how he would surpass Paul Gonsalves' 27 choruses that took place. So while we were on the bandstand, we were trying to count the choruses. And I think we came up with 32. Some people had 31, so we know we're in the 30s area. Rumor has it that James definitely was going out to break the chorus number that Paul Gonsalves put in place, but I think what happened is his reed broke before he could really put any kind of true number of choruses on it. So we came up with about 32. But James Carter is an outstanding saxophonist, one of a kind. I think like Paul Gonsalves, he has a style that is very unique to him, and he encompasses all of jazz again, not only from the very traditional aspects of it, but he can move into those avant-garde aspects of jazz as well. So he became the perfect person to come out and perform as a guest artist to substitute for Paul Gonsalves on that particular selection.
I have a quick question. Not for the tape, but keep rolling. But who did the charts on 4 and 1 and Oscar T? They were built off of whole Overton's charts, right?
Well, they may have been, and I think 4 and 1 definitely was, you know. But those arrangements were done by. I know 4 and 1 is done by Chuck Israel. I can't remember who did Oscar T, but it might have been Chuck's arrangement again. But I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember the music. Particularly, I didn't play on that one either.
Yeah.
So.
Just a quick.
But just so you know, Chuck has been doing a lot of arranging, and particularly of Monk's music. So I mean, and using the band as a complete ensemble, orchestrated, you know, in rhythmic unison, dealing with all kind of call and responses and all of it. I mean, it's something he's been doing a fantastic job with in recent times.
Just like you said something about James, because they don't know what they're going to use yet in terms of sound and picture and stuff. Like a quick soundbite about Regina Carter and a quick soundbite about Nicholas. And were there any other? Oh, shit.
I'm not going to tell if you won't. I got one of my own I have to live through, so I'm not going to even repeat it on the camera. And not to mention Gary Burton and.
Well, we interviewed Gary, and since that was without the orchestra, we got that covered.
Okay.
But just the guys who joined the orchestra.
Well, Regina Carter, you know. Let me start again because I understand the fact that we were privileged to have Regina Carter come on stage actually once again.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you. I make an adjustment. Okay. I apologize.
40 seconds. Right?
Right.
You happy?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you're holding. Oh, can you go hold them back again? Thanks, bud.
Okay. What part are we starting with? Guest artists? Research on Newport?
Well, go research. So do that quick, and then we'll go back to the guest stars.
Ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. And prepare to come here to do this festival and sitting in for Winton, obviously, his charisma is something that no one can replace. Let's start again.
Yes.
Let's start again if you don't mind.
Also, you just got hit by the boom.
Well, I ducked it now. I quick drawback.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay. It was obvious that Winter Marsalis wasn't here with us today, you know, and even though the band has been well rehearsed and prepared for many situations, it's always good to have your star player with you. But as I was asked to lead the band today, it came to mind that I might want to do a little bit of homework to prepare in terms of the things that I might want to say along the way. And obviously doing Dominion, we're doing Crescendo in Blue. You might want to know a little bit more about the piece with all that you've studied already, being a tenor player. I've checked out Paul Gonzalez's solo. But I want to go on the internet, you know, just do a little bit of homework. And obviously Duke Ellington, after doing this particular festival, made the cover of Time magazine, and just studying the history of Paul Gonzalez and his 27 choruses that took place on it and how it just totally revitalized the career of Duke Ellington. I just spent a little time to make sure that, just as I do with everything that I take on, I try to do some studying to make sure I know as much about the festival as possible. It started in, obviously, 1954. You know, it was the third jazz festival that took place. All the artists that were here, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, and the different people who performed over the years. I just wanted to know as much as I could about Newport when I got here.
Start with Gary Bartz.
Gary,
No, I was kidding. I said
right.
Gary Bartz.
I know, I heard you. I'm trying to recover.
Yeah, so, Clark, Regina, and Nicholas. Right?
Nicholas, yeah.
So do them separately.
Okay. The idea of having Regina Carter perform with the LCJO was just, it was a perfect match because she's done several things with us in times past. And of course, there are many vocalists who could have come in and done a great job singing come Sunday, but Regina added, I think, just another personal touch to it because she's so passionate in terms of what she does. And as a performer, she again is a great student of the music, and she takes great pride in her preparation for all of her performances. So as we were preparing in rehearsal to perform this piece, we had two different arrangements. And she came with both of them, and after hearing both of them, she decided that the one we performed today was the one that was correct for her based upon lots of things: timbre, range of the instrument, orchestration for the big band. So Regina is just a one-of-a-kind type of person who takes great pride in everything that she does. Nicholas Payton. it's difficult to know where to start with him because I've had the great fortune of being involved with Nicholas for so long, being from New Orleans. He's not just a student of the music, but he is a phenomenon of the music, I would say. You know, he's been playing like he's been playing since he's 13 years old, with the kind of intensity, the kind of creativity, the kind of willingness to take a risk inside of what's going on. I mean, he's just an outstanding young man, first of all, and then an outstanding musician. But first of all as well, nothing can take a backseat to anything that he does. And the fact that he's a great trumpet player is one thing, but something that most people don't realize is that he's a great piano player. He can also play the bass extremely well, and he plays the drums as well. So that puts him in a very unique position. I just hope he never takes up the tenor saxophone or the clarinet, because then I'll have something to worry about. So as long as he stays where he's at, I'm in good shape.
I know he played all this.
Oh, he's phenomenal. His father's a bass player.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, his father's a bass player.
We had him up here on the show a couple years ago. He was awesome.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It was him too. They used them on lung tunes, not Armstrong
Yeah.
tunes.
Mm-hmm.
Getting kind of typecast. All right, so
Tell you one more thing about Nicholas. Another thing about Nicholas that's really extraordinary is that one time we were hanging out at a club, at a jam session, and I guess we all kind of redirected our attention to different things taking place in the club. And we noticed that the bass player that was playing on a tune had changed, and someone else was playing the bass, and they were playing some outstanding bass lines. And we were like, oh, wow, man, man, who's playing the bass? And we looked back, and it was Nicholas playing. And so he was really killing then. And on the second occasion, I had a band in New Orleans back in the early 90s. And the band was Brian Blade on drums, Peter Martin on the piano, Christopher Thomas on the bass, and Nicholas Payton on the trumpet. And quite often at the end of the night, we would just open it up to kind of let my students come in. I was teaching at the University of New Orleans at the time, come in and play. We'd all kind of switch up around, so I might play a little piano. But on this night, I kept playing saxophone, and Nicholas started playing bass, and we started kind of taking it out harmonically and getting into all kinds of things. And he was just pushing the threshold all over the place on the bass, not to mention the trumpet. So he's just a musician's musician, truly. Clark Terry. Clark Terry is, as I said when I announced the tune for his introduction, he's a musician's musician. He's a great gentleman of jazz, and he encompasses everything that jazz is all about. Clark renews his dedication to the music every time he picks up his horn. Every time he plays, you seem like you hear something new that you haven't heard before, just within him. So Clark Terry is a man of great, he's just a great man, period. The end.
yeah. It's also one of the guys that you can recognize in one note.
Oh, it doesn't take long. Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Covered it.
All righty.
Thanks, man.